hiring apprentices.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
They want a whole house osmosis.
Yeah, I was like, it's kind of hard to do these things when you're not isolating, you know,
Yeah.
you didn't isolate it yourself.
All right, guys.
It's hard to come in just halfway through someone else's job and then figure it out.
Unless you really know what you're
together,
doing,
right?
then you can, but not that guy. He was just,
All right, guys. I'm gonna get started.
He wants whole house osmosis.
Okay,
He
so.
wants it. Guess what? In his bathroom.
Okay, Ryan, you guys can talk about this afterwards, okay? Please. I know you guys want to get going and have time to talk. That's fine. I want to go over these sheets for payroll, and I'm hoping that the camera will see this for those who aren't here. But I filled out a couple of them. Some of you guys fill them all the way out. Some of you fill them part way out. Some don't hardly fill them out at all. There should be, again, I'm reiterating again, there should be one of these for every single job that you go to. And so for this one example, I put on here, this is like a Monday job next week, even though we're not there yet. And so I put in the dollars that I sold for, the materials, what my helper was, my permit fees, my total costs. Then basically the markup for those that get marked up, permits, I mean, you know, and then I basically put the dollars over here. Then I put the hours I worked on Monday, put the date, all right? And then if I worked on an HPC, I put 1 hour here. So let's say this started out as an HPC. I have 1 hour of HPC, and then I have 8 hours of work on the job. So that means I actually have an hour of overtime. So this plus this is going to equal my total hours for the day, okay? So what happens is sometimes you put in 1 hour here, and I don't know, is that 1 hour of HPC that you started here because you're not putting any times? So is it an hour here plus 8, and or is it a total of 8? You know, that type of thing. So I just want to make sure that we're doing that right. The second one I did like for Tuesday, and here's an example of one. It doesn't have any dollars, it's just an HPC. So I have 2 hours here. That means I have 0 hours here because I already have the 2 hours. The 2 hours is still total for the day, or total for that job. Okay, everything else is filled up on top. But if I have 2 hours here, sometimes I'm seeing 2 here and 2 here. Well, is it 4? Or is it, you know what I mean? So I want you to separate that out for me, please. Just make sure that if it's HPC, the HPC hours go where it says HPC. And then if that's all you did, then you have no other hours over here. You don't need to have hours here. Just another example. Let's say if you have both again. On this job, I started the HPC. I had 2 hours of HPC, but then I sold a repair. Okay, so the repair is up here. There is a dollar amount, my materials, and I have 2 hours after the HPC that goes in the regular hours, okay? Because we pay differently on HPC hours than I do on regular hours, so I don't want them confused, and it looks like a lot of those hours are confused. It'll say 2 hours here, and then it'll say 2 hours here, but there's no dollars. So I'm like, well, is that just a total of 2? I'm assuming that's a total of 2. So the 2, you know, right here, if I did extra work plus my 2 hours of HPC and I did 2 hours of regular work, I have a total of 4 hours. That's how that should work, okay? So there's just been some confusion. Some of you guys are doing it right, some of you are not. I just want to make sure I went over it again. That's basically what I wanted to go over today. There's nothing more than that because going through payroll yesterday, it was very, very difficult trying to figure certain things out and without having to call people, and then I couldn't get a hold of them because the phones weren't working, so it made it a little more challenging. But that makes it a lot easier. I don't care if you guys don't really want to know this part here, and all you want to do is put in your costs and your things on the left-hand side, that's fine. Because my calculator does it automatically. It puts all those numbers in. But that's just for your benefit, so you know what your actual service volume is. That's all that's there for, is for your workout, for your worksheet. The rest of it is for me. So, any questions on this? I know, Sarah, you pretty much have this down most of the time. There's a couple little things here and there. Take into consideration, also, when you guys are doing these, sometimes you're putting in, and I don't even care, and honestly, if you guys, I check every single job what your actual costs are. So sometimes what happens is that when you're looking at your service volume and it's off a little bit, if you're putting in a number that you saw here, but maybe Jesse's labor wasn't in yet, or you know Ryan's labor, or whoever's wasn't in there yet, then it's going to change. So, or if a part didn't get put in, or a credit didn't get put in, maybe it's going to be to your benefit. Okay. On going over credits, So when you guys get a credit, make sure you circle that it's a credit. I looked at a couple different Ferguson invoices, and they're both from Ferguson, but they're different. One of them Sarah and I saw, and then one of them I noticed, some of them don't have a negative number on the bottom, but it says credit up on top. And you can see that it's a credit. So you have to kind of look there as well. Some of you aren't turning your invoices in. So I don't know if you have a credit if you don't tell me, or if you don't turn it in. Because I go through each and every, I go into the Service Titan, I check all of the purchase orders and the labor, and I make sure everything is what it is. I don't go by your sheet. I go by what's in the system. Now, if it's on your sheet and you have an invoice there, then I verify that and make sure that's in and all of that. So that's why it's important for you to turn your invoices in, so that what happens is, like for an example on Sarah's. Sarah did this and Renars did this last week. She puts a total in and it's off by a little bit. Like she puts maybe $30 even and it's actually $29.88 for an example. Right? So she just put in $30, the approximately number or whatever, but I go in and I fix that to $29.88 because she turns in her invoice and it says $29.88. I don't charge her the $30, right? On the other hand, you know, Renars was doing a couple that way. Some of them are less, some of them are a little bit more, just by pennies. But I actually fix those when you guys turn them in. So that way, when the girls get and everything, because it gets verified a second time, when the girls get all the invoices and input them, they verify that the numbers match. So if you have something that doesn't match, it's going to be harder for them unless, if it has the PO number on it, then it's still pretty easy. They can go in with the PO number, they can look and they can adjust it. But if you're missing the PO number and you just have a total, an invoice, now it's hard to find. So if the amount's right, it's better for us also, because let's say that you put a digit off on the purchase order number, but the amount is right, we can search by the amount and we can find that invoice and that purchase order to make sure it was done right. So I'm asking you guys, try to please, even if you put a purchase order in and it's off by a couple pennies, you can go back in and edit that. So go back and edit it, make sure that now that the amount is right. It doesn't take but a second to go in and make it $29.88 instead of $30. Because now, just in case you put it wrong, it's easy for us to find it with the actual dollar amount that's correct. Okay? That being off can mess us up if two numbers are off. You know, the number for the actual price and the number for the purchase order is off by one digit, it screws everything up. Okay? So I appreciate your help on that. That'll help me get through payroll a little bit easier, and you know, so everybody got that? So for those of you who are watching, please, same thing. All right, Kevin, you have anything you want to talk about today?
Who's interested in learning Steam? I need to know. Because I'm running these calls and I'm running them by myself. And I need to get...
Everyone here raise their hand, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well...
We've got your 6 on it.
The issue is that I'm experiencing is there's kind of no plan. So Steam call comes in and it just comes to me, of course. And then that's it. And then, you know, I look at the board and the good news is everybody's busy. So I really can't take anybody with me. So we need a list of people who can go with me on Steam calls, because I'm really frustrated because I'm going on these calls by myself and I'm not teaching anybody anything. And I'm going to be stuck doing them. I don't want to do them. And they're great calls, awesome calls. I mean, the houses you get into are amazing. So I'd kind of like to get a coordination going between, let everybody in the company know who's not here, obviously, and watch this video, that if you want to be, you know, on that list with dispatch, and then dispatch, every time they book me, they book somebody else with me.
Okay.
So that I'm never alone on a Steam job.
All right. We'll do everything we can to get somebody with you every time.
Okay.
At least one of these guys that want to be involved. So that's good. I mean, it's always great to learn something. So it makes it easier. You know, I do have another plumber apprentice. He's actually coming in to do some paperwork today. He'll be starting pretty soon, and that'll pretty much fill us up, I think, for plumbers apprentices for the summertime, hopefully. But you know, I think our apprentices, the advantage that we have, even though they're plumbing, I mean, we can use them on either side, so. That's what I'd rather teach them both, you know, whenever there's something not going on in plumbing, there's something usually going on in HVAC, so. That's good for the learning of both. Alright, that's all I got, guys. We do have some stuff on the board, so let's, you know, see where you're going and get out there and get it going. Make some money.